this? What? Oh, Fragile? How could she be so cruel?
Just with a loud slam on the table. Though, his face red with anger yelled at me. The table was adorned with lavish dishes, yet right in front of my mother-in-law was just a single cup of instant noodles. Until a moment ago, she had stared at it in disbelief. Oh, you covered her face, appearing as if she was breaking down in tears. But I saw it. Said underneath her hand, she had a sly grin. Seeing Phil on her side, she probably thought the situation was turning in her favor. But it wasn't going to be that easy. This instant noodle was just the beginning of our revenge. My name is Eva. I've been married to Robbie for 5 years. We had our first daughter last year, and now I'm a stay-at-home mom. We started living with my in-laws right after our daughter was born. Back then, we lived in company housing, but Robbie was transferred by his company. The new location was near Robbie's childhood home. Hearing this, Robbie's parents were thrilled and began preparations for us to move in. They renovated their aging home, even preparing a room for the baby. It was hard to say no after all that. Sorry, Ava. Mom got a bit too excited. But yeah, after all they've done, it's hard to refuse. But you're at home during the day, right? Just you and Mom. Wouldn't it be uncomfortable? The renovation was their idea. But they made a room for Jenna, and they said they'd help with her. That's a big help. Robbie seemed unsure till the end, but we eventually decided to live with his parents. However, living with the in-laws wasn't easy, especially my mother-in-law, who seemed to have hoped for a grandson. She seemed to resent me for having a girl. She constantly made snide remarks about my housework and parenting. The worst was her comments about my cooking.
What's with this bland food? I tea and Vera is true. For this, that looks bad and not bad. Have you been beating Robbie this?
Well, Robbie said he liked it.
Alright, yeah, right, yes, Robbie's just being polite. I can't eat this. Where versus in? We're helping. Clean it up. She got us this room. And
You're not eating it?
no, it's Nicholas tree. How like food made by someone like you? Mind your incision.
No matter how I adjusted the seasoning, she'd taste a bit and say, still not good. Ava, is your taste off? Serving this to your mother-in-law? Then even fast food or instant noodles are better. Lately, she'd bring home burgers and fries and eat them ostentatiously next to my dishes. It was clear she had no intention of eating my food. If she wasn't going to eat it, why should I prepare her portion? The day I left her spot empty, she was even worse.
Why is there enough food for Louie?
Well, you always say you don't like my cooking and eat something else. So I thought, unbelievable. Just because I eat something different, you treat me like this. This is too much. She covered her face, sobbing dramatically. Wait, please. It's just that you always say it's my fault.
So, you're saying it's my fault?
She's acting like a tantrum-throwing child. My daughter, who was already at the table, sensed the tense atmosphere and began to cry. This is a mess. I quickly prepared a meal for my mother-in-law and placed it in front of her, who was still complaining.
I can't believe this. What anniversary is in?
I wanted to say those words were mine, but I held back. I felt it was pointless to confront her directly. That night, I discussed my mother-in-law's behavior with my husband, Abby. Both Robbie and Phil leave early for work and return late, so they're unaware of the weekday meals.
Why? What that do, Grasters? Adi Daspi is innocent. Cause she's out like that on weekends.
She doesn't complain on weekends, probably because you and Phil are around. I said. Robbie looked puzzled. I understood his disbelief. No one wants to think their mother would treat their wife that way. I'd hoped that by keeping quiet, things would stay calm. But today's outburst was the last straw. And now her snide remarks were not just directed at me, but also at our daughter.
If I was cleaning Fellini, she followed me around, saying, Eva, you're so careless. It's a shame for the house after the renovation. I showered with my daughter, she'd scold from the dressing room. Don't be so loud. Is it ladylike for a girl to be noisy? Who did she get that from? Then she told my daughter, Jenna's cute, but it would have been better if you were a boy. I was horrified.
I could handle her comments about me, but I feared my daughter would become her next target. Then I thought about it. I couldn't stand still. There were tears in my eyes. I told Robbie everything. He seemed concerned and said,
Don't go, talk to Mom! Brass!
Those words made me breathe a sigh of relief. I hoped that, as her son, he could make her reflect on her behavior. Once you calm down, you will realize that you are doing something outrageous. After feeling relieved, I suddenly felt doubt rising inside me. But a doubt crept in. Would she really reflect? After all, she told a small child with a smile that it would have been better if she were a boy.
Then, maybe Mom will. I hate the papriksagisness. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Can you help?
I's against living together from the start.
As Robbie spoke, I took out my phone and started searching. Aishino arouse. There's laundry piling up. Are you just trying to get Robbie on your side and neglecting the housework? As expected, Robbie's warning had no effect. With Robbie and Phil around, she acted even kinder. But when they weren't, she was even harsher. Hearing her shrill voice, Benjina, who had just fallen asleep, began to cry. Even hearing the crying, my mother-in-law just frowned, showing no guilt. She's so noisy for a girl. It's because you always coddle her, Eva. Reach that you now. Don't speak ill of Jenna. I'm not. I'm just saying it would have been cuter if she were a boy. You're overreacting. She smirked and approached the crib. Don't waste Robbie's money on these gadgets. Girls grew up fine without them, she said, knocking over the baby monitor. It fell, narrowly missing Jenna's face. As I rushed to check on Jenna, my mother-in-law laughed. Oh, and next week is Dad's birthday. Are you prepared? We're inviting his colleagues, so don't embarrass us. Though your cooking is worse than instant noodles. She laughed loudly and left the living room, holding my daughter. I could only comfort her. It's okay. Don't cry. Don't cry. That was scary. I won't forgive her. I'll get my revenge. Inside, however, a burning desire for revenge against my mother-in-law raged. A few days later, as she had mentioned, Phil's birthday arrived. In their family, they had a tradition of hosting a small home party for Phil's birthday every year.
This year, upon hearing about it, Philo's subordinate said, he's let us celebrate too, and was invited.
Of course, the usual relatives would also attend. It's easy for father-in-law to just invite people, but I wish he'd consider the one who has to prepare everything. I had to clean and tidy up the living room, which would be the party venue, and prepare meals for over 10 people. Of course, there was no chance my mother-in-law would help. She just stood behind me, giving orders without lifting a finger. Even when Robbie offered to help, saying, Ime Miva, should I help with something? She'd dismiss him, saying, oh no, Robbie, you don't have to do anything. And then add, Eva is so good at winning Robbie over, making him do housework, aren't you? As the relatives and father-in-law's subordinates began to arrive, she quickly left the kitchen. I overheard her boasting, isn't her house lovely? It's always clean. I can hear people saying things like, no, that's not true. I just clean my house properly. Hype keeples, and the one who cleanse it, just with anger boiling inside. I continued preparing the food, and a few minutes later, all the guests had arrived and were seated, waiting for the food. My mother-in-law, of course, took the seat next to father-in-law, chatting away as if the food would magically appear. When I entered the living room with the dishes, there was a chorus of admiration. It looks delicious. So stylish. Hi, mother-in-law, ever the opportunist said, right? Well, I made that too. I silently set the dishes on the table. I placed the main dishes in the center and side dishes in front of each guest. And finally, I placed an instant ramen in front of my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law's eyes, covered in makeup, blinked repeatedly. She blinked in disbelief, looking between me and the instant ramen. Please enjoy, I said. What's the meaning of? The lively atmosphere was instantly silenced. The relatives and father-in-law's subordinates sensed the tension. Then what's going on here? Father-in-law was the first to shout. Afiva A. She the serving Taylor instant ramen? Explain yourself. Slammed his fist on the table, but I didn't flinch. She always said my cooking was worse than instant ramen, so I served her just that. She'd never say that. How dare you treat your mother-in-law this way? No matter how loudly he shouted, I remained calm. Father-in-law, now frustrated, pointed at Robbie.
Robbie! Ashray! This is because of your poor upbringing. Ashray.
But Robbie coldly replied, Lame. Then I'll cut ties with you all.
What? Thanks, Caffrey. Well, they may he be.
If you can still say kick Ava out after seeing this, then it's Mom who should be kicked out. Robbie showed FIL his phone. On the screen was my mother-in-law, laughing as she knocked over the baby monitor. Thick from the phone speaker, her recorded voice echoed, your cooking is trash. Even instant ramen is better. My mother-in-law's face, which had been downcast as if she were the victim, visibly paled upon hearing the recording. She must have thought FIL would side with her and help her navigate the situation, but that wasn't the case. Robbie played multiple recordings from the baby monitor, showcasing her numerous hurtful words and actions. Initially, she tried to avoid eye contact, but soon realized everyone's gaze was fixed on her. In desperation, she lunged for Robbie's phone, losing her balance and face-planting into one of the dishes I had prepared. It's a fabrication. But it killed people's Liz? She screamed, her face smeared with makeup and sauce. But her voice was unmistakably the same as the one coming from the phone. All the guests looked at the mother-in-law with disdain, as there was no way to escape the situation. The guests looked at her with disdain, and Phil was in shock.
I tell her, you, an art force caution. Come, Mother Susie, precedent.
It's not true. It's not. No matter how much she protested, no one defended her. Robbie stood up and came to my side. We're leaving this house, he declared, and we left the living room. We could still hear her incomprehensible screams, but we never looked back. Soon after, we left their house with our pre-packed bags. Everything that happened was a plan Robbie and I had devised. When Robbie learned of her harassment, he had consulted FIL, who refused to acknowledge his wife's behavior. We feared that without undeniable evidence, we'd be forced to continue living with them. Robbie devised a plan to expose her in a way she couldn't deny. The baby monitor and enduring her verbal abuse were all part of it. After moving to our new home, Phil reached out to apologize. He apparently divorced her after the incident. Just in front of his relatives and subordinates, his wife's disgusting behavior was revealed, and Phil even made a comment to cover it up. Robbie thought that they would have lost face if they didn't get a divorce. We don't know how she's managing now, but she tried to approach Robbie at his workplace, not knowing our new address. She was recorded as a suspicious person and taken by the police. Father-in-law said that she should forgive him because she had drawn out her mother-in-law, but she said, "What are you going to do?"
Just for me, it was the time when I consulted her about Eva. Chaff. No, to be honest, if you had a weary thyest, I think we just ignore it like this.
I don't mean right away. That's right. I'll let him remind me for a while, and so we haven't been in touch for a while now. Maybe in the future, we'll let him see our child. For now, we want to enjoy our time as a family of 3. Robbie admitted that he had been too focused on work since the transfer and hadn't been there for Jenna and me. Since moving, he's been taking days off to spend with us. We're looking forward to a peaceful life together in our new environment.